For years, Sonic fans have complained that they want the blue hedgehog to go back to his roots. And when Sega responded, well, they still complain. But regardless, the quality of some of Sonic's adventures has been concerning to say the least. However, it looks like Sega are finally starting to turn things around, what with Atlas setting a good example for them, and the delay of Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. This only leads me to believe that they're pouring a little more care into making their games, although I've heard the only reason why Fire and Ice got delayed in the first place is because nobody's working on it, which only raises more questions, but that's not what this video is about. I'm here to talk about Freedom Planet, the 90s inspired indie game created by Galaxy Trail. One thing your eyes will immediately be drawn to is the various similarities to Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're not wrong for making that connection. In actuality, this started development as a Sonic fan game that was shown off at Sage, a showcase of many fan games related to Sonic the Hedgehog. I would love to show off more of this type of stuff, as there are some pretty interesting fan creations, but that's for another time. So yes, the relation to Sonic the Hedgehog is obviously what drew me and many others to Freedom Planet. Even the characters look like they fit right in with the Sonic universe, but nonetheless, let's see what we've got here. However, before we dig any deeper, this game has a plot to cover, so let's get to it. In a world referred to as Avalice, there lies a great source of power known as the Kingdom Stone. Then, an evil dictator by the name of Lord Brevin comes along and flat out murders one of the world's leaders and brainwashes his son to do his bidding, causing a war between the dividing factions. Meanwhile, in Dragon Village, we're introduced to our main heroines, Sash Lilac and Carol T, who ends up getting caught in the crossfire when they align with an alien named Torque, who knows what Brevin has planned. Unfortunately, they're already too late, as the Kingdom Stone is stolen moments later. While on their travels, they also meet up with a third playable character named Mila, who, now that I think about it, doesn't really have an impact on anything plot related. She tries to break her friends out of a jail cell later on in the game. Completely fails, mind you, but still, points for effort. So to put it in layman's terms, Brevin's stolen the Kingdom Stone, saved the day and get it back. Though at times things do get a little bit more complicated. One example being Lilac and Carol's history with a thieving group called the Scarves. But I'd be lying if I said that the story wasn't the least bit convoluted. A lot of the time I found myself scratching my head trying to get to grips with what exactly is going on. At the very least, I can say that the story and set pieces are very action-packed and the characters are written well and are very likeable. Honestly, the story here reminded me very much of the Saturday morning Sonic cartoon. A group of anthropomorphic rebels who are trying to overthrow an evil force who has a tight grip on the world in which they live in. By the time I got to the epic final stage, I was thinking Sonic Saturday all over the place, with its dark atmosphere, alert sirens, robots running rampant, and Brevin slowly getting more annoyed over the intercom as I progressed through the stage. Speaking of comparisons to Sat.AM, much like Robotnik in that show, Brevin wastes no time in showing you how much of an evil bastard he really is. The first thing you see him do when you turn on the game is decapitate somebody, and later on he tortures Lilac Metal Gear Solid style. Thank God there's no button mashing. He claims that the only reason why he's doing this is to help his people, but his methods are questionable. He's evil to the core, make no mistake. Also, his voice makes him a really threatening presence. I was actually very surprised by the voice acting. I've played a lot of big budget games where the voice acting is less than stellar. So to have an indie game of all things blow those games out of the water deserves some serious props. These people can act, and they really give life to the characters that they're playing. Lilac is the strong-willed hero who always tries to do what is morally right, at the expense of putting her friends in danger. Carol is the sarcastic jokester who always likes to support her friends when they need it most. Despite this, at most Carol is indifferent in participating in the war and much prefers living a quiet life with her friends. She's also the one to snap Lilac back to reality when she gets a bit too gung-ho. Their different ideologies later cause some friction between the two of them. The best part about this is that neither character comes off as irrational. On one side, Lilac's willingness to keep fighting for the sake of a peaceful resolution is admirable. But at the same time, while some may see Carol as selfish, the fact of the matter is that no matter how good your intentions are, there has to come a time when you realise you're causing more damage rather than preventing it. Again, there is no clear-cut answer here, and I think it gives the characters of Freedom Planet an added layer of depth. While not a huge contributor, I do think the implied backstory given to Mila leaves a lot of unanswered questions. Apparently she was separated from her parents at a young age, but we're never really told if that's because of the war, or whether there are other factors we just don't know about. I would love to see these plot points get resolved in some sort of sequel, because like I said, I find these characters engaging, and in some ways very relatable. However, since I know that there are some players that don't really care about stories in video games, I'm happy to report that Freedom Planet has you covered. Before you begin the game, you can choose between either Classic or Adventure mode, with Classic cutting out all the cutscenes in favour of a more streamlined adventure. What's also noteworthy is that in Adventure mode you're given the choice to play either Carol or Lilac, who are branching paths in the narrative, giving you an incentive to play both characters to get the full story, kinda like Sonic Adventure in a way. Once you start the first level, you'll begin to notice that things look a tad bit familiar, with assets like loops, springs and the occasional slope to keep your speed going. Though some Sonic veterans may be disappointed to hear that there's no way to curl into a ball to gain speed. That doesn't bother me too much though. I came to Freedom Planet looking for a different take on the high speed formula found in most Sonic games. If I wanted to play a Sonic game, I would play a Sonic game, so I will not be judging Freedom Planet on how well it plays as a Sonic game, but more about how it fares as a standalone game on its own merits. For a start, I can say that the locales here are nice and varied and makes the world of Annalise really come alive with Japanese-inspired shopping districts to ancient ruins. Helping this is the graphical quality. No photorealism here, instead we get 16-bit worlds mixed in with some fluid animations and bright colours resulting in one stunning looking game. If there's one thing that Freedom Planet taught me is that sometimes a simpler art style can be just as effective as a complex one. They reminded me a lot of Gunstar Heroes, and for some reason Dynamite Headdy if you've ever played that. Figures, they were both made by Treasure after all. It's on the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection if you're curious. Each level has their own set of gimmicks, but they never feel intrusive. Instead, they make each level unique as well as adding some much needed flavour. Regardless of the lack of a momentum-based physics engine, the levels in Freedom Planet are still very flowing by nature of their design. Much like the classic Sonic games, depending on your curiosity and the pathway you choose to take, the game will offer you various rewards such as lives, shields and other means to get lives. I don't really know why the developers decided to implement a life counter, maybe as a staple of the platform genre, but even then when you get a game over you can just continue from your last checkpoint you reached, so what purpose do they serve? In the Steam release you can earn an achievement if you get through the game without dying, but in the Wii U version they are literally pointless. Like in Sonic 3, the shields can also help you collect things as well as make you immune to certain hazards, including spikes, which is pretty cool. I'd love something like that in the Sonic series. There are also these special trading cards you can find in every level, which unlock some really neat extras like concept art and music tracks. Man, I wish there were more games with unlockables like this. So yeah, if you're a fan of the multi-layered level structure found in the classic Sonic games, Freedom Planet has so much to offer to keep you coming back for more. However, the multiple pathways isn't the only thing that this game is going for it, as you can also choose to play as any of the three main characters. Lilac is the fastest of the group, as she can perform a dragon boost to zip through the level at high speeds and ricochet off walls to reach higher areas. I didn't really get any dragon vibes from her though. When I think purple dragons I usually think more Spyro, but still, I'm not complaining. She can also do this mid-air twirl, which is great for taking out airborne enemies with ease. Carol is the more combat oriented of the bunch, having much faster melee attacks and just being more powerful overall. Yeah, Freedom Planet also includes combat into the mix, which kinda threw me off at first, seeing as how I'm used to every button jumping and bouncing on enemies to kill them. Despite this, I managed to adapt pretty quickly, and once you do know the ins and outs of the fighting mechanics, it can be immensely satisfying to barrel through your enemies at top speed, making Carol my personal favourite to play as. Carol can also do a wall jump in the same fashion as Mega Man X. On top of that, if you pick up a gas canister, Carol can use a bike, making her nimbler than she was previously. Then that leaves Mila, who can only be played in classic mode. She can run fairly fast, and she has the flutter jump from Yoshi's Island, making her great for finding collectibles. Combat wise though, that's when things get a bit tricky. She can form a shield in front of her, which she can then use to throw or shoot at the enemy as her only means of offense. She also has the smallest health bar out of all the playable characters, essentially making her the hard mode of the game. I must stress that Mila isn't a bad character to play as, you'll just need to adopt a more defensive strategy. These three characters mirror the archetypes found in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You have the Speed Demon, the High Flyer Explorer type, and the all-around powerhouse. And just like in that game, different characters with their own sets of abilities means all sorts of different ways to approach a level. It'll be quite fascinating to see just how much new stuff I can find in some of these levels as time passes. One aspect that wasn't at all taken from classic Sonic though is the boss fights, because they're actually good. In fact, when I first fought them, I didn't expect them to be that good. They will kick your ass if you're unprepared. They will move from one side of the screen to another in a blink of an eye, and if you don't recognise their pattern soon enough, well then you'll die. Quite a lot I might add. But they're a great time while they last. The amount of sweat I generated fighting some of these boss fights really made me appreciate just how well made they are. They hit hard, yes, but they're still entertaining once you know how they operate. The soundtrack is also pretty good, though I feel a lot of the songs work better when played with the levels that they're tied to. But I still have my personal favourites. Dragon Village can be pretty catchy, and I can't get enough of the song that plays at the start of Thermal Base. Give it a listen, there's bound to be at least one song that'll grow on you. If you're still bummed about there not being a Sonic release this year, then allow me to recommend Freedom Planet. It's not the exact same thing, I realise that, but still I find this to be a fantastic tribute to video games of the 90s, as well as being a great game overall. And hey, it's getting close to the holidays, now would be a good time to pick it up on Steam at a discounted price. Or if you're a fan of consoles, you can play it on the Wii U via the Nintendo eShop. Here's hoping for a port on the Xbox One and the PS4, and while you're at it Galaxy Trail, how about a sequel? Just saying, it would be a shame to let such good talent go to waste. Nonetheless, I hope you guys go out and give this game a try, and as for my next non-retrospective related review, I'm going to be taking a look at Nights into Dreams. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you then. Hello guys, thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed this review I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave me a like, and if you want to keep up with my future uploads, please consider subscribing. On screen I'll have an annotation to take you to my next video on Nights into Dreams, and if you want to have a look at my Sonic the Hedgehog retrospective, I'll have the link to that playlist as well. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter where I post updates regularly as well as just posting random nonsense. Once again, I thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.